Hey everyone, it's me, Rami Marks, your tangled yogi out here in Northern California. Welcome to the free to be Zentangle inspired class. I'm about to teach this for the San Rafael Public Library, but I thought I would record it and share it with you as well. So let's talk about the things that we're going to need for class today. I'm going to be working with a graphite pencil. This is just a regular number 2 pencil. I have my Micron PN Pen that I'll be using for tangling. I have the Jelly Roll Sakura White Gel Pen. I'm using an 08 today. You know me, I'm a Prismacolor girl. Grab your Prismacolor pencils. We're going to have a good time with this. Now, if you don't have any Prismacolor pencils, don't worry about it. Just grab the color pencils that you have and play along. Many of you know that I love to work with the Genesis tile on the Tangled Yogi shop. This is a 4.5 by 4.5 inch tile with super smooth paper, which is really great for receiving color pencils. Now, if you don't have the Genesis tile today, don't worry about it. Just grab your favorite sketchbook and make a 4.5 by 4.5 inch square on your page and play along. With that said, let's get started with Free to Be. Many of you know that I like to do a little centering exercise before we get started with our creating. So let's go ahead and take a comfortable seated position for a moment. Allow yourself to land in your space. Allow your spine to grow comfortably tall. You can let your hands rest in your lap if you like. And if you're okay with it, you can allow your eyes to close too. And just taking a moment to let your attention fall on your breath. As you breathe in, feeling your body expand with breath. And as you breathe out, feeling the release in the body. Inhaling, filling the body with breath. Exhaling, and feeling the release. And one more time here, breathing in and exhaling at your own pace. And just staying with your breath for the next few moments here. And as I was creating this class, I was thinking about the freedom of the bee in the garden and whatnot. And then I only came to find out a couple of days ago that my class was falling on Juneteenth. And I wanted to share a special quote from Nelson Mandela in honor of that. And he says, "For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedoms of others." And let's just take that in for a moment. And really offer gratitude for the freedoms that we have, and really to live into our freedom so that others may be free as well. Taking in a nice deep breath right here, and letting it go with a sigh, and then wiggling in your fingertips and wiggling in your toes. And then gently blinking the eyes open if you haven't already. And let's get ready to create. So I've got my graphite pencil in my hand here, and we're going to start by just doing our dots in our corners here. So you're going to see me go ahead and do my dots in my corners. And I'm going to go ahead and just connect the dots. And you can see that I'm just taking my time as I turn the tile to connect the dots. And it's okay if there's a little wiggle or wobble in your line today. Just allow it to be as it is right now. Now once I've got my frame or my string ready here, I'm going to go ahead and start to create the actual string. And the string is where you divide the space so that you have places in which to work in. And so I'm just going to come up to the top here and I'm just going to make a little dot. And for those of you who were in my Napa class last week, you know this string well because we used it. And so I'm going to use it again for San Rafael. So you can see I just turned it again and I'm just going down the middle and creating these 4 spaces in which to work. So you can see that I've got my 4 squares here. Now what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to divide the spaces in half and then I'm going to divide them again. So it's going to look a little something like this. I'm going to come up to the top. You can see that I'm in the middle of where this square is. You can see here's my square and here's the middle point. All I'm going to do is divide the space in half, and you can see that I've gone down and done the second square the same way. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I've got 2 squares, come up to the middle, dropping down. Once we have that, I'm going to turn my tile, and remember you can always pause me at any time if you need to. You can see that all my lines are now horizontal except for the one vertical. I'm going to come into the middle of this set right here, the middle of this column, and I'm going to divide it in half. And then I'll come up to this column right in here, and I'm going to divide it in half. And that way we get this really nice, fantastic grid. It's super easy, super fun. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work within the spaces. So let's go ahead and talk about our first tangle today. So many of you know this tangle, but I don't like to assume anything when I'm teaching. So you're going to see me actually do a little demo of bales. Bales is one of those first tangles that people learn in Zentangle, and it's a really, really fun one. All it is a seed-like shape that follows a vertical line. And you can see that's all I'm doing is just this little seed-like shape following a vertical line. And then I'm going to turn my tile and I'm going to do it again. And you'll see that we get this beautiful pattern that emerges, which is super cool. So that's bales. If you've never done it, it's a really great one. And I think that's a headquarters tangle. I could be wrong, but I think that's right. So what we're going to do with this is actually, I saw a beautiful string by a fellow tangler. This is Linda Jennaw, who has a great blog called Time for Tangling. Check it out because she's got a lot of great stuff on there. I learn so much from her. And she had this beautiful string where she used bales as a string. So what it looked like was she did a little bit differently. She took that really beautiful shape of bales and created this beautiful meta tangle that I absolutely love. And then she used a tangle that we're going to learn in a few minutes called clams, and it's just so beautiful. And of course, you know, I had to put my spin on it, but I just absolutely loved it. It's such a great tangle. So let's go ahead and put this in our piece. And by the way, thanks Linda, you're awesome. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick up my pen. Now, if you feel like you want to stick with pencil, you absolutely can, but I'm going to be working with my pen today. So the way that this is going to work is I'm just going to start with this set right in here. You can see that I'm in this square right in here. All I'm going to do is I'm going to start by building these really nice seed-like shapes, and you'll notice that my seed-like shapes are fairly robust because we're going to be working inside of them. So I'm going to go ahead and do one here like this, and then I'm going to do one here like this. And so this is the basic pattern that we're looking for. So I'm just going to drop down into this square and I'm going to do it again. So I'm following the top two squares just like this. 1, 2, here comes 3, and here comes 4. See how I'm keeping those nice and robust? They're fairly large here. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do the exact same thing as what I did over here. So all I'm doing is I'm going to come in. It's just easier for me to start with the right one first. And then I'll come in and do the next set, keeping them fairly robust. And last one right here. So coming in, doing the same thing as what I did up there. Coming over here. And then last one right here. And you can see that it builds this really gorgeous string that you can do a ton of stuff with. And you know, when I was over on Linda's page, she's got a ton of different ones that that she worked with, and I just thought they were all so gorgeous. So let's go ahead, finish this up, and then when we come back, we're going to start to add a little bit of embellishment. Our next tangle is called Clams, and I think it's actually with a Z. So Clams is that same tangle that we've just been working with here, and I'm going to zoom in on this tangle here. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little pencil and just divide the space here so that I can use that as a string. And how I do clams is I come in and I do these back-to-back C-like shapes. Just like so. Now once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and, I know, surprise, surprise, I'm going to put in a tipple, and then I'm going to put in a larger tipple at the top, and then I'll do a tipple at the bottom, and then once again a larger tipple. Okay, and then we'll pull that in. Just very softly. Remember, the lighter you go with these pens, the easier the ink flows. And then we're going to put in a little bit of the tangle called Mirth into this. And I just love the way that this looks. So all it's going to be is, you can see that I'm starting down at the corner and I'm just auraing that really nice shape that's right there. And I'm going to do it again. And I'll do it from the other side. 1 and 2. Once I've got that, I'm going to put a little triangle on the edge of it and a little triangle on the edge of this. Same thing over here and same thing over here. And that, my friends, is clams. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh my gosh, there's going to be a lot of clams. Yes, there's going to be a lot of clams, but this is a time that you get to totally zen out and just do this one tangle. Okay? So let's go ahead and bring it into our piece, shall we? So you can see that I'm right here in this particular corner, and I've got my pencil out, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my spaces. For me, this just gives me an opportunity to, I guess it just gives me a little confidence with my getting all my perspectives equal, I guess is what I'm saying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in now, and I'm going to just start the way that I just did that last one. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in fairly close to the top, make a backward C, and let it come down. I'll go over here, starting at the same point, make a backward C, and create that little space. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a small tipple right in here. Tipple is just a circle, and then going in and doing a fairly large one above it. Same thing down here, just like so. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pool my ink. Light touch here. Got those in. And then I'm going to go ahead and start with that nice aura, letting it touch. And I'm only doing 2, keeping it rather simple today. And then once again, making that triangle, making that triangle. Same thing over here. Same thing over here. The thing that I love about this is it doesn't matter which way your piece is going, it always looks good. So I think it's really fun. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm using my guide here once again, a nice backward C, another backward C. Go ahead, put your small tipple in, another one. Going ahead, pool your ink, soften your shoulders, stop holding your breath. That's what I'm telling myself. I know I tell it to you guys, but I do the same. And then over here, another set, just like so. And for me, pooling ink, I just find it very satisfying. So once I've got those top 2, I'm just going to turn my piece just like so, and I'm going to do it the other way. Same thing that I just did before. So all I'm doing are a nice backward C, placing my tipple, one over here, one over here. And you can see that I'm being very mindful to create, fairly large tipple because we are going to add a little bit of shading into these. This is why I said in the beginning, making nice robust bales, because then working in the space is a lot easier. Once I've got that, coming up and out, little triangle, and little triangle. Coming over to the other side, triangle, and triangle. I'm going to come over here, do the same thing right here. Nice backward C's. You can see I'm trying to do them about the same size, but we're humans. So when we make our art, it tends to look a little bit more handmade, which I am totally down with. And down here. Pulling that in. And then I'm going to go ahead and start to build that out. And over here. Little triangles. And you can see, look at how cool that is. I just love the way that looks. This is a beautiful tangle. Thank you, Linda. I just love the way that you put all this together. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do all three of these in the same way. Take your time with this. Let yourself just get into the flow, into the groove. This is you time. So, grab your tea, a little bit of chocolate or a strawberry, and just let yourself go into the tangle. Have fun with it. I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Isn't that so fun? I just love the way that that looks. It is just one of those strings that just makes me so happy. So I'm picking back up my graphite pencil here, and we're going to actually place our bee into the piece. So I'm going to zoom in on this here. And you can see my center isn't perfect. It's got a little wonkiness to it, and I'm sure yours does too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little bit of an oval-like shape that's just going to come in here and sit right at about the midpoint. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do another little aura around that midpoint. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a little head on my bee here, and then I'm going to give him his little bee body. Once he's got his bee body here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give him his wings, and his wings are just a little bit of a petal like shape that are going to attach. So some of you might know this petal might look a little bit like henna drum to you. So all it is just a little petal like shape with a wave on it. I'll go ahead and I'll give him his little antennae here. And then once I've got him the way that I want him here, I'm going to pick up my pen and I'm going to ink him in. So what this is going to look like is I'm going to start just the way that I did and give that a little bit of an aura. And then I'll come down and make his little bee body, his head, his wings, coming in right through here. And then I'll put in his antennae. And then once I have that, I'm going to turn him on his side here, and I'm just going to make a couple of arcs here. So let's see here. I want to make 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, and 4, just like that. I'm going to come into that first arc, and I'm going to pull my ink, but I'm also going to leave the center with a little bit of a sheen. I'll leave this one alone. I'll come in here, do another one with a little sheen, and then right on his tush we'll give him a little bit of a blackness there. So that really gives it a nice feeling. And then I'll finally come into the wings here, and all I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a divider line and some V's that are going to go down that line just to give those wings a little bit of interest. I'll come over here, do the same thing. And there we have our little bee. Now, if you want to give your bee some eyes, you can just do 2 little crescent moons and then pool that ink there, and there you've got the little eyes of your bee. Okay, so have some fun with that. Get yours exactly the way you want it, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work with a little bit of an improvisational tangle here. So let's go ahead and start to work with the outer edges of this tangle. You can see that I'm in the middle here, and I've got this little indentation that I want to work with. I'm going to pick up my pen here, and I'm going to do a very soft arc. A little crescent moon here. Once I've got my crescent moon, I want you to think of the Tangle poke leaf. Many of you have done poke leaf with me before, but just so that you have a reminder of it, poke leaf is where you have a little stem and then an upside down happy face, and then you have this really nice kind of soft petal-like shape that goes over the top of it, like so. We're going to use this part of the tangle in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to come into the center of this piece here, and all I'm going to do is come up, create the petal, and then drop in. Do the same thing over here. Now once I've got that in there the way that I like it, I'm going to give that petal a little flap just by doing a little swing out there. See how I'm doing this? Just a little drop down and then drop in. And that makes it a really fun kind of tangle there. I'm going to come in between these two right here, and I'm going to do another arc. This one's a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to go to the outside edge, and I'm going to just make a cloud-like shape. You can see that I'm right here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3. Just like that. Once I have that, I'm going to do just some soft lines that are going to have some interruptions in them. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to come down, and then I'm going to pick up my pen and then let it touch again. Come down, pick up my pen and touch. Come down, pick up my pen and touch. And you'll see that that kind of creates a little sheen. So come down, and just like that. Now on the rest of it, I'm going to let those petals, or rather those lines, be strong lines. And you can see that I'm kind of turning them out as I go towards the edge. Super fun. Just love the way that that looks. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this on all of my corners, so I'll show you what I mean by that. So you can see that I'm right here. All I'm doing is turning clockwise, and I'm going to do it again. Now I'm looking at how big I made this last one, and I'm thinking about that same size up here. So I'm just going to start by creating the arc. Creating those poke leaf shapes, looking at this one for reference here as I'm doing it. So I'm thinking about it as I'm creating. And this got a little bit separated, but that's okay. And then I'll do a little arc with another arc. And then remember that cloud-like shape that I was talking about? So I'm going to do an arch, another arch, and then another arch coming in, just like that. I'm going to do those interrupted lines that we talked about. Same thing on the other side. And then I'll start doing those strong lines. Hopefully you're getting the feel for it. Let's go ahead and do it again. I'm going to come to this one right here. Nice arch. Another arch behind it. That really nice petal. Creating those little flaps. Another arch with an arc behind it. And then once again, that really nice cloud-like feel. So 1, 2, and 3. And don't worry if they're all a little bit different. That's kind of how it's supposed to be. And then those really nice interrupted lines, and then the strong lines. And this particular tangle really comes to life when we go ahead and shade it in. I'm going to do one more here. This is our last one together. So once again, nice arch, poke leaves, nice arch. Go ahead and do those cloud-like shapes. Ooh, that one's a little tight. And once again, those interrupted lines. They can't all be perfect, you know? And then I'll put in my little flaps for my poke leaves. So that when I go ahead and I zoom out, look at how cool that is. Just love the feeling of that. Super fun. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. And then when we come back, we're going to start to talk about the border. So I'm going to start to work in the outside borders here, and all I'm going to do is start to ink them in a little bit. Now you'll notice that I'm going to have to pick up and come out the other side of where that beautiful little flower is. I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side here. So I'm just coming around and picking up around the opposite side, and then just working through and picking up and putting down. So you can see that I'm just turning the tile and working it through. You go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. Look at how pretty that is when it gets all connected. Have fun with that. So let's go ahead and focus in on this piece here. I'm going to start to bring some color into the piece, and we're going to be working with our clams in here. I have two colors that I'm going to be working with. I'm going to be working with the lime peel green and the grass green. Lime peel green is PC1005, and then the other green that I'm going to be working with is PC909 here. So the way that I'm going to do my shading is I'm going to come in and do a really light dusting of the lime peel green first. Now remember, you always want to go lighter first with your color so that you can go darker later. You'll notice that I'm leaving a little bit of light in towards the center here. So just a light dusting. Getting that in. Once I've got that, I'm going to pick up that darker color and I'm going to start to very, very lightly bring it along the edge here. The reason why I'm going so lightly is because that color is heavily pigmented. I don't have to press hard. It's already going to give me the shading and the shadow that I want to do. Now I have a tangler out there that is, she's going on a color fast for a little while, and so she's doing this all in black and white. All of these techniques that I'm showing you right now, you can do in black and white. Okay? So just coming along and adding that in, and now I'm going to press a little bit harder along the black line in here. And just give that a little bit of a glow. I'm going to take that original green and I'm going to do little circles and do a little bit of blurring out of the line of demarcation. You can see that this one got softer. See how there's still a line of demarcation there? I'm just going to do little circles very, very lightly over where that dark green is meeting the light green. And look at how pretty and soft this gets. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to introduce some more color into the piece. Once you've had a chance to do that in all four of your corners here, you're going to see me come in with a really pretty crimson red. This is PC924, and all I'm going to do is a light dusting of that crimson red on half of those tipple. Just like so. And this is going to really give this that feeling of those beautiful spring berries that we're seeing up here right now. Once I've got that, I'm going to press a little bit harder, just like so. I'm getting right in there. Look at how pretty that is. So go around to all four of your tipple on here and do the same thing. Have fun with that. So I've had a chance to go all the way around and finish mine up. Hopefully you've had a chance to do yours. If you haven't, go ahead and pause me here. This is a great place to do it. So I have my graphite pencil in my hand here, and I'm going to come into the center of where I've got these really kind of fun diamonds. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an aura that's going to go into each part of these pieces. And you can see that I'm still using that guide from before. See how I still have my graphite lines from before? So I'm going into each one of these and just creating a nice diamond-like shape that is also an aura. I'm auraing this line right here. So you can see that as I go around, I'm going to do that in each one of these. And I'm trying to make them about the same size. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to add color. So I want to encourage you here to pick up whatever color is speaking to you next. For me, whenever I'm looking at gemstones and things like that, there's different gemstones that speak to me at different times. Today I'm going to be doing amethyst ones, but in the first ones I actually did some really pretty sapphires that I thought were really fun. So whatever gemstone is really speaking to you, that's what I want you to try out. So I've got in my hand two different purples here. I've got the Dahlia purple, which is PC1009, and I also have in my hand the violet, which is PC932. I'm going to start with the violet first, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to overdraw on that graphite that I just did. And the reason for that is that I kind of want this to have a little bit of a wallpaper feel, but I also want to use that graphite to give it a little bit of a metallic feel. So I'm just coming through and using this really nice violet here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into this upper left-hand corner here, and I'm going to softly bring in some of that violet in the upper area here, and then down in the lower area here. You'll notice that I'm leaving a little sheen of lightness in the center. I'm going to come down into this corner right over here and do the same thing. So all I'm doing is picking this up and bringing a little bit of that violet in there. And I'm actually going to go all the way through on this one, but I'm going fairly lightly. Once I've got that in there the way that I want it, I'm going to start to press a little bit heavier and start to get that really rich, beautiful violet color. And I love the way that the violet plays off of the green. I'm going to lift up and come over to the other side, leaving just a little bit of that lighter violet in the center. Once I have that the way that I want it, I'm going to press a little bit harder in here just to get a little bit more intensity. Coming down in here and getting a little bit more intensity in here as well. Now once I've got that the way I want it, I'm going to come up in here and do the same thing. So just pressing this a little bit harder in there. And the same down in here. Once I've got that the way that I want it, I'm going to pick up that Dahlia purple. This is that other purple that I have. And I'm going to come in and just go very, very lightly on this side. And you can already see the difference in those two purples, which I really love that play. I'll come over here and do the same thing. And remember, if you're not working with the same colors as me, what I'm looking for is a light and a dark. So if you're using like a light blue and a dark blue, or maybe you're going for a really pretty like amber color, or you could be working with a green if you like it. So whatever the colors are that you're working with, just remember that's what I'm looking for. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to dust all the way through on this one. And then once I've got that, I'm going to start to press a little bit heavier. And this is just to build some nice dimension in here. Coming up over in here, doing the same thing. Really, really pretty. Same thing up in this corner, just a little bit of dimension. And over in this corner right here. And once I've got that the way that I want it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to work in the center of the piece here. And I'm going to just lightly bring in a little bit of that lighter purple. And you'll notice that I'm going to leave a light source in that upper left-hand corner. Once I've got that the way that I want it, I'm going to press a little bit more, getting a little bit of dimension here, giving a nice shadow. And then I'm going to pick up my white pencil. You want to make sure there's nothing on your white pencil here. And for those of you who are new, this is PC 938 and this comes in the Prismacolor set. And I love working with the white when I'm doing my blending. So I'm going to come in and just do a little bit of circles over where the dark purple is meeting the light purple. And you can see what that's doing is it's kind of pushing around that color. So I'm going to go into each one of these and start to kind of do my blending. I'm trying to maintain as much of that lightness in the center over here as I can. So I'll come over here and do the same thing. Just getting in there. And then I'll come over into the darker purples and start to work with those. And look at how pretty that gets when you use the white pencil. So take your time with these. And when we come back, we're going to add a little bit more to our gemstones. So go ahead, have some fun, relax, and enjoy the color. I'll see you in a few minutes. Once I've had a chance to do the blending work that I wanted to do in here, I'm going to come in with a little bit of that graphite pencil, and I'm just going to come in and add a little bit of a shadow right over the top of where that color is. You're going to see me come back in with a little bit of that white and blur it out. And what this does is it sets that graphite, but that graphite gives this a really neat drama effect that I absolutely love in these gemstones. Isn't that so pretty? It really brings a depth into it that it didn't have before. I'm going to do the same thing in some of these darker purples. So you're going to see me just kind of dust in a little bit of that graphite here and a little bit of that graphite over here. Same thing up in here and same thing over here. Coming back in with a little bit of that white and a little bit over in here. Look at how cool that is. Isn't that pretty? So I'm just bringing it down and dusting it down. Drama. Just love it. Woo! So pretty. So I'm going to take that same technique and I'm going to bring it into all four of these gemstones. You go ahead and do yours. Enjoy the process. Remember, just take it one gemstone at a time. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. I just love the effect of this. Look at that. Whoa! It's just so pretty. So I've got my violet in my hand. This is the darker of the two purples. And I'm just going to go ahead and come in and just redefine those lines a little bit. And get those to really pop, really get that division in there. And you can see that just by doing that, it gives it a lot of definition. I might even come in up here and do the same thing. So, just go around and look and see where you need your lines to be and clean them up. Now you can see that I haven't done the area around my bee yet, and I want to talk about that. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of that lighter purple. This is the dahlia purple, and I'm just going to start to dust it around that bee. Just coming in, giving this a little bit of interest. And once I've had an opportunity to get around that bee here, I'm going to pick back up that darker violet and bring it in to the corners so that it kind of mimics what's going on, but not completely. It's going to have a nice resonance with what's out here. So all I'm doing is just a little bit of that darker purple into the corners to give it some interest. And then I'll pick back up a little bit of that lighter dahlia purple again, and all I'm doing is just a really soft blend right where that darker purple is meeting the lighter purple. So I'm using the lighter purple to do a little soft blend on it. And once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to bring in a little bit of that white and start to just give it a little bit of softness behind the bee. I don't want to see hard lines there. I want to see it soften. I'm coming around. And once I've got that the way I want it, if I need to come back in and redefine, I can come back in and redefine. So I can give this a little bit of pop in the corners here just to give it that little bit of interest. And I love the way that that kind of has a relationship with what's going on around it, right? So that when he's in the center or she's in the center, this all has relationship to each other. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and when we come back, say that 10 times fast, we're going to do some work on our bee. I've picked up a new color. This is the Sunburst Yellow, which is PC 917, and I'm going to be using this yellow to do a little bit of work on my bee here. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and just dust in a little bit of that yellow on either side, leaving still a little bit of that light sheen in the center. So you can see that I'm leaving that light sheen in the center here, and then I'm just going to come down and do the same thing right in there. Now, I am going to pick up a little bit of that green that we were working with before. So I had the light green and the dark green in my hand. I'm going to start with the light green first, and I'm just going to dust in a little bit of that light green into the center here. I'll pick up a little bit of that dark green and just give it a little bit of a shadow. You want to make sure that your pencils are all sharpened up when you're working in a small space like this. So if you need to stop and go do that, absolutely do it. And then I'm going to come back in with that light green and blur out that line of demarcation by doing little circles where that dark green is meeting the light green. Once I have that, I'm also going to do just a little dust of that yellow right in the center, just to give it a little bit of interest. And then finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my graphite pencil and I'm just going to give a little bit of a shadow right where the bee body is on the wing. Just a little bit of a shadow there. And I'll pick up my white pencil, making sure that there's no other colors on it, and I'll go ahead and I'll blur that out a little bit. So I'm dragging that graphite around just a little bit. You can see that that white kind of picks it up and teases it out a little. And that gives it a little bit of definition. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work with those flowers on the outside edges. Let's go ahead and focus on those flowers on the outside edges here. So I'm going to pick back up that yellow that I was working with just a moment ago, and I'm going to come into these little arches that I have. So you can see that I'm just going to dust in a little bit of that yellow in here. This is that sunburst yellow. And then I'll come to this one right up here and do the same thing. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of that graphite that I was working with. I want this to have a really earthy feel, so I'm just dusting in a little bit of that graphite in here. And then I'm going to come back in with that yellow and just tease it out a little bit. Little circles, moving that graphite around and also setting that graphite, which is really what we want to do. Now I'm going to take some of that crimson color that we were using in the berries, and I'm going to start to bring it into these petals right here. So I'm just going to dust these in with a little bit of that crimson. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that crimson and I'm going to roll it over the top in that kind of cloud area. And dust it up a little bit. You'll notice that I'm leaving a little bit of lightness up at the top. Now, once I've got that the way that I want it, I'm going to come back in and press a little bit harder with that crimson. Just like so. I'm going to pick up that yellow, the yellow that we started with in here, and I'm going to start to blur the two together. And then I'll let it kind of dust down a little lighter. Same thing over here. Isn't that so pretty? I just love that. Now I'm going to come in up top as well, and I'm going to blur out that line of demarcation. And you'll notice that I'm still going to leave a little bit of that light up at the top. Is that cool or what? I love the way that that looks. It's so pretty. And then I'll pick up a little bit of that graphite pencil, and I'm just going to do a little smidge in here and in here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and a little bit there. Pick up my white pencil, make sure there's nothing on it, tease out that graphite, little circles. It really gets it moving every time. Just like so. Look at how cool that is. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine. I'm going to go up and over to these as well and finish those. Have fun. I'm loving the way this is looking. It really has a soft feeling to it. I want to talk about our corners up in here, and I want to tie it all in together. So I'm going to take a little bit of that crimson that I was working with before and a little bit of that sunburst yellow, and we're going to start to bring it into the corners. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to just dust in the corners, but you'll notice that I'm going to leave a little bit of light around where those green leaves are. So see how it's kind of got a halo effect there? I'm going to come in with a little bit of that crimson and dust it into the corner. And then I'll pick back up a little bit of that yellow again, and I'm going to press a little bit harder on this and start to push that pigment around a little bit. I'll come back in with a little bit of that crimson and just get that corner to pop. So you can see how that gives a little bit of glow around what we've got here. So I'm going to do that same technique in all four corners. Isn't that wild how just doing that little bit in the corners just brings the whole thing together? It just amazes me how just a little bit can do a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into these little weird interstices that we have here and just do a little splash of yellow into those areas just to give a little consistency there. You can see that I've kind of gone around and done that in a couple of places. So I'm just giving it a little bit of consistency around those flowers. Now, if you happen to have one of these really lovely jelly roll pens, I'm a big fan of the 8. I think it's my favorite of the colors, or rather of the sizes, just because I can get into different spots with it. So I'm going to use a little bit of this, and I'm going to just start to come into where our little gemstones are. And I'll just come in very, very lightly and give this a little bit of a highlight here. And a little bit of a dot. And then I'm going to come up into the darker spaces and give that a little bit of a highlight and a dot. So you can see that I'm going to jump down in here and do the same thing, just to give it a little bit of juiciness. And you can see that that's already done a little bit of that. So I'm going to do that in all four of my gemstones. You go ahead and do yours. So I'm going to jump back into where my bee is here, and I'm just going to bring in a little dot into my bee here just to give him a little bit of sheen too. You can see that I'm just giving that little dot to that, giving that a little bit of lightness. Love the way that this little gel pen can bring so much to a piece. It's really, really fun. So the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of playing around with those little berries that I have here. Now, you know, they are pretty small, and some of you may have smaller ones than mine are, but what I like to do is every once in a while I like to make my stuff look like it's a little bit of watercolor, and so I'm just going to take a little bit of this yellow and dance just a couple of bits of yellow into pieces randomly around the piece. So you can see I'm not doing it on every single one. I'm going to some of the larger ones and maybe some of the smaller ones and just putting in a little bit of yellow inside of those little berries here just to make them a little bit more interesting. So you go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, okay? I've picked up my pen that I've been using throughout the piece here just to create, and I'm looking for any places where I need to clean up around where my clams are. So go ahead and take a moment to look through your piece and see where you need to do some cleanup with your pen. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've added my chop down in the corner here. Your chop is just your initial, and that's your way of kind of stating that you've completed the piece. And for me, it's always a time where I can take a moment of gratitude for this time that I spent creating. I'm going to go ahead and just bring in my original piece here. Isn't that so fun? I always love to look at how the pieces differ from each other. You know, you're never the same person twice when you're recreating a piece, and I just love how different these are from each other, but yet still totally related to each other too. If you enjoyed the class, please give it a thumbs up or leave a really nice comment in the area below. That always lets me know how you're enjoying the classes, and I love to hear how you're feeling about them. And even better, hit the subscribe button. That will let you know whenever I add a class to my channel here. And even best, if you want to come over and join us on our Facebook page, you can join us at the Tangled Yogi Art Community page on Facebook. We have a great community, super supportive, and all of my students love to share their work there and be supportive of each other as we're creating. It's so neat to see how differently everybody creates the piece. It's really, really cool. All right, well, that's it for me. I'm Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi. I look forward to tangling with you next time, and I hope you enjoyed Free to Be. Bye.